Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Assalatu wassalam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Inshallah, in today's talk number 8 of the life of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, we will be covering still the life in Medina, in the second era that we wanted to cover in his life. And today, inshallah, we'll continue on his life in battlefields and actually a couple of other incidents as well besides the battlefield, like the Treaty of Hudaybiyah is one of the things that we will discuss today. Besides that, that his participation in battle against the Banu Fazara tribe and the Najd and the Dhatu Salasil. This is another battlefield that he participated in, and the Umrah that he performed, which was the Umrah of the makeup Umrah that they missed because of in the Hudaybiyah when they were going for the Umrah, they were not able to perform that year. So inshallah, we'll start off with Hudaybiyah, and as I have mentioned in the past also, we will just will be focusing more and more on the life of Abu Bakr and his specific stances and his role in specific events of the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in this case, we're talking about seerah of Abu Bakr Al-Siddiq, but his specific role in the events that we are discussing. When it comes to the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, that happened in the sixth year after the Hijrah, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the month of Dhul Qa'dah, he saw the dream that he's performing the Umrah, and when he informed the Sahaba, they were very happy that they will be able to perform the Umrah, and they intended to go for the Umrah to Makkah. Now, it was the Quraysh that did not allow Rasulullah and Sahaba to perform the Umrah, and the events went on to the point that while they were away from the Mecca at the place called Hudaybiyah, the Quraysh, they wanted to make a treaty with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and now that treaty was. There are quite a few events happened, of course, and I'm just skipping to the point where Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu's role was mentioned in the ahadith and in the seerah books. So when the treaty was being signed, and before it was signed, they actually sent multiple envoys to talk to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and one of them was Urwa bin Mas'ud radiallahu anh. He was not a Muslim at that time. He was one of the leaders of the tribe of Banu Thaqif. And when he came to talk to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said very strange statement. And there's a long hadith that is about actually the incident of Hudaybiyah. And when he was talking to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made a statement, and he said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, "O Muhammad, won't you feel any scruple in expirating your relations? Have you ever heard of anyone amongst the Arabs expirating his relatives before you? On the other hand, if the reverse should have happened, nobody will aid you. And by Allah, I do not see with you dignified people, but people from various tribes who would run away, leaving you alone." Now, what he was doing was, because he saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there with about 1,400 Sahaba along with him, and they were from different tribes, as Islam was the one that united them under La ilaha illallah, under the Aqidah of Islam. And he was trying to instigate some sort of to show, first of all, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that these people will not be with you, and time can come that they will run away and leave you like that, because you are the one who actually left your tribe. You broke off from your own people. Now he was playing a trick here, And Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, while he was listening to this, he said, and in Arabic it says, like he said, Umsus Batar Allat. Allah was the god that actually Banu Thaqif, they used to worship. And what he said was, Abu Bakr, in today's term, and even whichever way you want to look at it, it seems a bit a vulgar language, because he said basically to Urwa that go and suck the female genital part of the Allah. Allah was the god, female god that they used to worship. And that is the Abu Bakr said this because he wanted to show him. And he said like this, Abu Bakr said to the first, he said to this statement, and then he said, do you say we would run and leave Rasulullah alone in a manner just to show him that they will never leave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Urwa, when he heard that the way Abu Bakr responded to Urwa's statement, he asked right away, who is that man? They said he is Abu Bakr. So Urwa said to Abu Bakr, now by him in whose hands my life is, what is not for the favor which you did to me, which I did not compensate, I would have replied back to you. This hadith is reported by Bukhari. Now here, a couple of statements, things to understand here. One, this is not this is a hadith which is reported by one of the most authentic books of the hadith, Sahih Bukhari, and in which it is mentioning what was the response of Abu Bakr, and the response of Abu Bakr was done in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which means the approval of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there. Otherwise, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have stopped Abu Bakr to make a statement like this. And then and that response was because of Urwa was trying to create some sort of a division within the Muslims, and Abu Bakr took the stance to make sure that nothing like this happens. And the second thing is, even though they were there to negotiate with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prior to the treaty happen, as a matter of fact, the treaty was not something that they were discussing at that time at all. This was prior to that. And Urwa actually responded that if Abu Bakr would have not done a favor. So Abu Bakr has done a lot of favors to a lot of people in different times, whether it was before Islam or after Islam. Hence, he backed out, and he did not reply back to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh about anything like this. Now, other thing to remember about that is that Urwa was trying to kind of dampen the spirits among the Muslims. And Allah Azza wa Jal actually mentions about it, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمْ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ, that so do not become weak against your enemy and not be sad. You will be superior, which is you will be victorious if you are indeed the believers. Now, when the Treaty of Hudaybiyah happened or was happening, the Quraysh, they sent Suhail bin Amr. And again, this was another person who was also not a Muslim at that time, and later on he also entered into the fold of Islam. So Suhail bin Amr, radiallahu anh, he was a non-Muslim when he was a kafir, when he came to work from the Quraysh to with a delegate to talk to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at Hudaybiyah, and they agreed upon making a treaty. And apparently the treaty seemed to be a little bit in the favor of the Quraysh. Of course, Allah Azza wa Jal knew the best, and he informed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam later on that this was actually the victory for the Muslimin. And the articles of the victory were like this, and the first article was, the Muslims shall return this time and come back next year, but they shall not stay in Makkah for more than 3 days. They shall not come back armed, and they will bring only the swords which are in the sheath, and the war activities between both sides will be suspended for 10 years. And whoever becomes an ally of whichever side, they will be part of the treaty. And if anyone from the Quraysh actually goes over to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam without his guardian's permission, then he should be sent back to Quraysh. and actually other reports does not even mention about the guardian's permission, but he will not be sent back. That's a key idea. If somebody from Quraysh become Muslim, goes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he should be returned back to the Quraysh. Sorry, but if anybody from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam side, a Muslim, he leaves Islam and goes back to Quraysh, then Quraysh, they don't have to send him back. Now, another last part was, which I already mentioned, that whoever wishes to be on the side of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he will be part of the treaty from Rasulullah's side, and whoever want to be part of the treaty or the alliance of the Quraysh, he will be on their side. Now, when this was happening, Abu Jandal radiallahu anh, who was the son of the very same person who was doing the treaty with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Suhail bin Amr, and he showed up while this treaty was not even signed yet, but these articles of the treaty were discussed. So Abu Jandal showed up and he was chained. So somehow he freed himself and he was able to make it to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, Suhail bin Amr, right away, he asked that he should be returned because of the treaty. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, but we have not signed the treaty yet. And he said, but we agreed on that. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted that, and he said that Abu Jandal radiallahu anh should be returned back. Now, when Abu Jandal, he started raising his voice, are you going to send me to the kuffar? And upon that, Umar radiallahu anh, he actually went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he started asking questions to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, Alasta Nabi Allahi haqqa, that aren't you the prophet of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala? And Rasulullah said, Bala, why, of course. Then he said, Qultu alasna ala al-haq wa aduna ala al-batil. And then Umar bin Khattab continued on, isn't our cause just, and the cause of the enemy is unjust, is batil, and we are on the haq? Rasulullah again, his response was, Bala, of course, and why not? So قلت فلما تعطي النية في ديننا إذا قال إني رسول الله ولست أحصيه وهو ناصري. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he replied back that actually first Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he said that about that our deen is I'm looking for the right translation for that. Didn't you tell us that he's so he said, then why should we be humble in our religion? He said, I am Allah's messenger and I do not disobey him. And he will not, and he said, he will make me victorious. So Umar al-Khattab said, didn't you tell us that we would go to the Kaaba and perform the tawaf? And his response for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes. But he said, did I tell you it will happen this year? And Umar al-Khattab says, no. So, of course, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not, he only said that we are going for the Umrah, did not mean that we are going to perform the Umrah right away. So, and he says, so you will visit and perform the Tawaf. So Umar further keep asking him, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was keep replying back to all the questions that he was asking. Now, Umar, when he realized that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not going to change his mind about the subject of the treaty, now he went to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. And now Abu Bakr also, he started asking him the same question. And he said, oh Abu Bakr, isn't he truly Allah's messenger? He replied, yes. And I said, then why should we be humble in our religion? He said, indeed, he is Allah's messenger and he does not disobey his Lord. And he will make him victorious. Adhere to him as by Allah, he is on the right. And I said, Umar said, was he not telling us that we would go to the Kaaba and perform tawaf around it? And Abu Bakr's response was, yes, but did he tell you that you would go to the Kaaba this year? Umar said, no. He said, okay, you will go to the Kaaba and perform tawaf around it, meaning later on, but not it doesn't have to be now. So Az-Zuhri, he mentions about Umar ibn Khattab's behavior that happened that day. He realized the mistake later on, the way he was talking to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he started fasting, he started making more nafila salah, he started giving charity, freeing slaves to basically compensate on the way he talked to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what we see here is Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he was able to see the wisdom behind the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, while Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he was not able to see see that specific wisdom in this treaty. He was more overwhelmed by this idea, especially when he saw Abu Jandal, that he was chained and he had to be returned back to the kuffar, and he was thinking of that kuffar had the upper hand, that if a person becomes a Muslim from Quraysh side, he had to be returned back to the Quraysh, while if a person who is a Muslim but he leaves Islam and goes to Mecca, he will not be returned back to the Muslims. Now, he did not see the wisdom that Allah Azza wa Jal had in this hukum, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was only following the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh was able to see that wisdom right away, and his response was actually similar to what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told to Abu Bakr, to Umar bin Khattab as well. And that is the distinction about Abu Bakr, that Abu Bakr was a very sharp-minded person. Second, whenever he was aware of that something is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never questioned anything as long as he was aware that it is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Once it was established that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one who has who said something, then he stuck by it and he followed the command as is. And we'll see that later on, inshallah, more after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well, how he was following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even the situations was much more severe than the situations which are mentioned in the treaty of the Hudaybiyah. So that was Abu Bakr's response, and it was very parallel to the response of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, after the Hudaybiyah, because Hudaybiyah was actually a victory for the Muslims, and the moment Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went back to Medina, right away the preparation for the Khaybar was started. And Khaybar was the Jewish tribe that was in the surrounding, it was about 80 miles away from Medina, but they were very much involved in many of the plots against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Madina state, and they were up to destroying that, and they were using different means by gathering the Jews around the Khaybar and around the Medina. Plus, they were in touch with the Munafiqeen, and they were also in touch with the Mushrikeen, whether it were around the Medina, whether it were Ghatafan, or even the Quraysh of the Makkah as well. So when Rasulullah sallallahu got to Medina after the Hudaybiyah, that means now one of the biggest enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was or their movement towards Medina was suspended for the time being. Now Rasulullah sallallahu had time to take care of the issues that were always lingering around Medina, and the Jews of the Khaybar was one of the biggest one. Hence, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually gathered the very same 1,400 people who were part of the Hudaybiyah, and the one who gave the bay'ah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take him towards Khaybar. And now the first person Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the flag to conquer the Khaybar fortresses, because they, upon hearing the news of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam coming, they hid inside the fortresses of the Khaybar. The first person who was sent was Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. He was the flag bearer of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the victory through his hands was not accomplished. Second day, because they continued to be inside the fortresses. Second day, it was assigned to Umar al-Khattab, and again, he was the one who was carrying the banner, but the victory did not happen, or the fortresses were not conquered through Umar either. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I shall give the banner tomorrow to a man who loves Allah and His Messenger. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as we are aware of, the next day he gave that banner to Ali radiallahu anh, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Khaybar was conquered. Now, during the whole siege of the Khaybar, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually commanded at one point to start cutting the date trees, the date palm trees, and the reason was that was their one of the main asset of the people of the Khaybar. Now, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam started commanded this to cut the trees off, Sahaba right away they followed the command of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, when he witnessed what was happening, he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he advised otherwise. And he said, whether we win or we lose, it will not benefit, it will not be beneficial for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the people of the Medina, because if they cut off the trees and they are victorious, then fine, you will take care of this issue of the Jews, but there's a huge loss that will come along with it, because Khaybar's one of the key things was the farming, or all those trees that they had around the fortresses. They were the key way of the economic gains, financial gains that the people of the Khaybar were doing, and that could have been an asset for the Muslims after they opened the land. So hence Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he reminded Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam of that, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually went along with Abu Bakr, and he stopped this cutting of the trees. And as we know, after the Khaybar was conquered, that became one of the biggest ghanima in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that was gained, one of the biggest ones. And actually after that, the situation of the Muslims got much better, until at this time they were going through very difficult times, even when it comes to the food, even they not have enough to eat most of the time. After this was over, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh was, after Khaybar, they came back. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, under the leadership of Abu Bakr Siddiq, he sent a small army against Banu Fazara. And so Abu Bakr Siddiq came out victorious in battle. So there are a couple of battles, I'm just going to name through them, because we cannot go through the detail of each one because of the time. Then Abu Bakr was also the leader for the expedition of the Najd as well. And this is the same battle where the hadith which is mentioned Abu Dawood that says وَكَعَنَ شِعَارِنَا أُمِّتْ, which means that put to death was the cry, was the slogan that they were using. Now the following year, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went for the compensatory or the kafara of the qada of the umrah, which is the makeup umrah that they performed, and that was in the 7th year of the hijrah. And Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, along with the other Sahaba, performed the umrah with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another incident I want to talk about today, inshallah, and then we will close off, is Dhat al-Salasil. This is the battle that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent under the leadership of Amr bin al-As. And Amr bin al-As was the leader, but and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, both of them were under the leadership of Amr bin al-As for this battle. And in this battle, there's an incident that happened while they were moving towards the enemy. And when they reached the mountain of Tay, Amr bin al-As, he asked for, they needed some sort of a guide who can help them to reach to the enemy. Now, he was told about, and this hadith is reported by Rafi bin Amr himself. He was from the Tay tribe of Tay, and this is what they were heading towards. Now, they were told that Rafi bin Amr would be the best person to be the guide, because in the days of Jahiliyyah, he was a highway robber. And highway robbers, of course, they knew of all the terrains and the tracks of the mountain. So they assigned him to be the one who will take him. Now, during this battle, even though Abu Bakr was a regular soldier under Amr bin al-As, Rafi bin Amr, he was able to recognize something in Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. Even though Amr bin al-As is the leader, he goes to Abu Bakr Siddiq. He had the miswak in his hand, as the hadith discusses, and he talked to him like the one who was the carrier of the miswak. And he asked him that he goes and he asked him, give me something that I can retain in my memory also, and I will be like you all. And now, but don't be too long. I am a simple person. I can. His response was, I am a simple person. I cannot remember too many things. Just give me something that I can retain. Now, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, his response was, can you remember your five fingers? So Rafi bin Amr said, yes. So he said, okay. Then he, because this is another way of a way of presentation. When you connect it with something, it's easier to remember. So he reminded him of, okay, you have five fingers in your hand. Okay, now count these five things on your hand and see if you can do that or not. So he said, bear witness that there none has the right to be worshipped, which is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, that there is nobody worthy of worship except Allah, and Rasulullah is the messenger of Allah. Establish five prayers and but give the zakah from your wealth, and fast and perform the hajj of the Kaaba. And now Rafi's response was, is there anything else I can do? So Abu Bakr's response was that do not be the leader even among two people. So, and the reason he mentioned that was, the reason was, of course, he realized the kind of personality Rafi bin Amr was. And also on top of it, the main issue was, if you are a leader, then you are responsible for all the subject under you. It's no more just you are responsible for yourself. Rather, you are responsible for all the subject under you, meaning you're accountable for if you have taken care of them according to Allah Azza wa Jalla commanded or not. So you are accountable now, and that could be very problematic for a person if he is not capable of this. So he did not say that it is obviously that it is haram to be a leader or anything. As a matter of fact, Abu Bakr Siddiq himself was a leader, and he was, after Rasulullah passed away, he became the leader of the whole ummah. But if you are not prepared for the job, do not take that kind of a job. And when it comes to leadership, if it's not something you can do, this is what he was telling to Rafi bin Amr, that this is not you should not take this kind of a position. Okay. A few points to ponder on the points what Abu Bakr said to Rafi bin Amr. Number one, remember that when he asks, he's trying to put things in a nutshell to him, that five things so he can remember. And of course, is a comprehensiveness of what does it mean by Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. It's not mean that, okay, after these five things only, you can do whatever haram you want, and whatever you can you don't do any of the other obligation Allah has placed on you. No, all those things are still there, but this is something to remember. And that this is what he was asking for, because these five things are the pillars of the Deen, and the rest of the Deen is built on top of it, and all those things are required besides the other things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed the burden on all of us. Now, and then he made sure that he does not take the leadership position. And another aspect of Zatul Salasil is Abu Bakr Siddiq, even though he was with Rasulullah from the beginning of the da'wah, I mean, even before the Rasulullah became a prophet, he was a friend of Rasulullah. He did not think of this as any way a degradation of Abu Bakr. He was assigned as a soldier under Amr bin al-As. He worked as a soldier. And when there was an incident happened, when they were getting closer to the enemy, Amr bin al-As actually commanded the Sahaba not to light the fire. Now, that could have been problematic, because the thing was, it was a very cold night, and he told the Sahaba, you cannot fire up or light the fire. Now, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he did not like it. He did not feel comfortable with this, and he was going to start the fire. And Abu Bakr Siddiq reminded him that Rasulullah actually assigned Amr bin al-As as a leader because and he's a leader because Rasulullah assigned him as a leader. Rasulullah was well aware of the leadership of Amr bin al-As in the warships. Hence, he assigned him. So when Abu Bakr reminded Umar Umar calmed down and he stayed back. And there was actually a wisdom from Umar bin al-As side. He wanted to keep the lights or fire off, even though it was cold, because if the fire was turned on, it would have shown the enemy the size of the Muslim army, which was a very small compared to the army of the enemy. So that he did not want to give them this idea that they were smaller in number. Hence, he commanded the command that he gave. So, inshallah, I just want to summarize what we discussed today, and we'll stop here. Today, what we talked about is the role of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu in Hudaybiyah, how he stopped Urwa bin Mas'ud to create some sort of dismay or the division among the Muslims, and then how he responded back to Umar al-Khattab about the treaty of the Hudaybiyah, and he was wise enough he was wise to understand the wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jal behind the treaty of Hudaybiyah. And then in the Khaybar, he was the one who was bearing the flag, but later on it was Umar al-Khattab and Ali, through whose hand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the victory to the Muslims. And then he also led the army towards Banu Fazara and Najd, and performed the Umrah with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then in the Dat Salasil, he was under Amr bin al-As, but you could see his leadership qualities, that the people around him, they can see him as the leader, even though he was under Amr bin al-As in that specific battlefield. Okay, so we'll stop here, inshallah. And if there is any questions or comment about today's talk, inshallah, I'll try